It's been a while since we dated. Teacher, how did you convince the principal to let you date and transfer Bai-Yu to our class to sit with you? What? I really didn't know about this, teacher. Yoon's expression darkened after 2.5 rounds of questioning. You brat, you haven't spoken the truth. Do you think the teacher is a child? Leave now. After being scolded, you were kicked out. Upon opening the door, you saw Bai-Yu Yao. You were out. Bai-Yu Yao smiled sweetly, stunning you. You stared at her until her cheeks flushed, playfully scolding. Don't stare at me like that, it makes me shy. You snapped back to reality and awkwardly said, sorry for staring at you. What's the reason? Before you finished, the girl curiously asked, and you awkwardly coughed, saying, mainly because you're beautiful. Really? Bai-Yu Yao smiled at your compliment. The girl giggled, covered her mouth, linked arms with you, and said, let's go home. Feeling the girl's softness made your face turn red. After leaving school, you pulled your arm away. The girl asked, why don't you let me hold your arm anymore? You took a breath and asked, Bai-Yu Yao, what are you thinking? What do you mean by thinking? Silly Yang fan, I've made it obvious. Can't you see I like you? You pretended to be serious and asked, Bai-Yu Yao, is anyone beside me? There are no others, you don't need to pretend. We were strangers before. Why act like you like me and pretend to be my girlfriend? Bai-Yu Yao laughed, saying, you're still clueless. I genuinely like you now, despite finding you annoying before. I've realized you're the only one who truly cares about me, so I'll love you sincerely and be your faithful admirer. You feel increasingly uneasy? What? No one dares to imagine the situation where the school beauty behaves like a devoted dog. The girl sighed and said, okay, I won't tease you anymore. Lin Fan, seriously, if you had nothing, were ill, and had millions in loans, would you treat a girl who cared for you well in your next life? You replied, if a girl treats me this well, then yes, I would be her dog. I believe the same. This story is about our past lives, but here, I'm the one who is ill, and you stay. Do you see why I like you so much? You find it ridiculous but plan to verify it. Bai-Yu shook her head and asked, since you're reborn, let me ask you this. Before finishing, the girl smiled and said, you know what? I'll even tell you the color of my underwear today. You waved and asked, since you're reborn, can you tell me tomorrow's lottery numbers? The girl shyly said she didn't notice this. What about the college entrance exam paper? Do you remember what you were tested on this year? Sorry, I've mostly forgotten the exam questions. Upon hearing this, you lost hope and doubted Bai-Yu Tao's sincerity and help. Bai-Yu said dejectedly, it's fine, let's forget it. You say this, but you're still a bit disappointed. Bai-Yu Ying felt embarrassed by your disappointment, thinking she couldn't do much more than fill in for you if reborn. Suddenly, she remembered something, her eyes lit up, and she said, right, Lin Fan, I remember. What did you remember? You asked curiously. I just remembered, it's your birthday tomorrow. Hearing that, you seemed puzzled. I'm turning 18 tomorrow, and your uncle will bring your cousin for lunch. You were surprised and asked, really? How do you know? I definitely know. You often said that on your 18th birthday, your uncle would bring your cousin to celebrate. You borrowed 300,000 from your mom for a house and never returned it. Your face darkened, but you still couldn't confirm if the girl had reincarnated. Bai-Yu Ying, do you know my uncle's name? The girl snorted, asking Lin Fan why he doesn't believe her. Your uncle was originally named Zhang Jishu but changed the child's name to Song Jishu after his second marriage. Honestly, I've never seen anything so absurd in this life or any previous ones. You nodded, only your clueless uncle would do this. Your uncle borrowed 300,000 for a house, trying to prove himself, but it became a half-finished project. You were shocked and asked, how do you know? Did you reincarnate or something? Not really, those apartments were developed by my dad. In a few months, Dad will go bankrupt, and the project will be abandoned. The girl giggled, but you felt uneasy and pained. You sighed and asked, Bai-Yu Yao, how can you laugh when your family is going bankrupt? Bai-Yu Yao paused for a moment after hearing this. Last life, my father went bankrupt and killed himself. My mother had an affair and left with the money, and I became paralyzed from debt pursuit. Without you caring for me, I might not have lasted this long. Tears flowed from her as you helplessly said, please stop crying, miss. Is it not enough that I was wrong? Although unsure of what went wrong, you chose to apologize first. You kept apologizing, making Bai-Yu Ying cry harder. Why apologize when it's not your fault? After 2.5 minutes, the girl fainted from crying, and it was unclear who called for help. Soon after, Uncle Hat took you to the police station, where you went to the interrogation room immediately. What is your relationship with that girl? Does her family know? You were surprised and said, Officer, I'm just a classmate, I haven't done anything wrong. Officer Yu clearly didn't believe you. After years as a cop, he's seen it all. Though you claim otherwise, it's clear you don't match your story. That girl is as beautiful as a fairy, you don't deserve her. Since you're dishonest, just stay put. Let's see how you lie when the girl wakes up. Bai-Yu Yao woke up, saw unfamiliar officers, and felt disoriented. The female officer with a glass of water gently asked, you're awake? Bai-Yu Yao sipped and said, thank you. Then the female officer asked gently, were you tricked? Don't worry, we'll protect you. There's no need to fear retaliation. That guy is being interrogated and can't escape. Hearing this, Bai-Yu Yao urgently asked, where is the interrogation room? I need to go find him. Seeing Bai-Yu Yao's anxiety, the female officer helplessly took her to the interrogation room. In the interrogation room, the female officer asked Lin Fan for his address. You listened but kept your mouth shut while speaking. You don't want to share your address because you fear your parents will find out you might be taken to the station. If they knew, they'd likely plan a bamboo shoot and pork meal for you. Just then, a knock sounded, and the female officer let Bai-Yu Yao in. Bai-Yu Yao knew the situation before entering and said, sorry, officer, we're in a free relationship. The female officer was surprised, their difference was notable. However, after some investigation, Bai-Yu Yao could state your preferences, while you couldn't answer questions. The officer felt mixed emotions after hearing this. She couldn't understand how perfect Bai-Yu Yao was.